the CPI inflation report was released, and the US government is reporting that inflation has dropped substantially. Now, I want you to keep in mind that this does not mean that prices are coming down. No, they're just saying that prices are not rising as quickly as before. The CPI inflation report shows that the rate of inflation is now at 2.7%, and that came in much lower than analysts were expecting. In the previous report, inflation was at 3.0%, and economists were expecting it to increase to 3.1%, but the results defied expectations. Here's what the report shows. CPI headline inflation came in at 2.7%. Core inflation, which removes food and energy prices, came in at 2.6%. As you can see from the chart, the rate of inflation has come down compared to 2021 and 2022. However, it's been 5 years, and policymakers still cannot get inflation down to their stated goal of 2.0%. Just look at how sticky inflation has been over the past few years, and keep in mind we were at 3.0% in the last report, which is 50% above target. So I think it's fair to ask whether the central bank is truly serious about bringing inflation down to 2.0%. That's because policymakers have been cutting interest rates, which is inflationary. And not only that, they've also turned the money printers back on. That started on December 12th, with roughly $40 billion per month being added. And of course, that's inflationary as well. So, in my opinion, they're simply not serious about bringing inflation down to the 2.0% target. You can let me know what you think, but if you ask me, it looks like they're more concerned with propping up markets, supporting financial institutions, and monetizing the national debt. How can anyone argue they're serious about fighting inflation when inflation is still above target, interest rates are being cut, and money is being printed? Now, I want to explain their argument, what some might call their justification. The current central bank chair has said that trade-related costs have been pushing inflation higher. However, according to leadership, this inflation is expected to be a one-time price increase. In other words, inflation was elevated in 2025 due to these factors, but officials expect things to improve in 2026. They've also said they're confident inflation will cool in the coming months and won't be a major problem going forward. According to them, the bigger concern right now is the labor market, which is why interest rates are being cut and liquidity is being added. Now let's look at how this CPI report affected expectations for the next policy meeting, scheduled for January 28th. Before the CPI report, there was a 24.4% chance of an interest rate cut. If inflation had come in higher than expected, the odds would have dropped, but inflation came in much lower than expected. So what happened? According to the market-based probability tool, the odds of a rate cut increased from 24.4% to 26.6%. That's barely a move, which is honestly surprising given expectations were around 3.1%, not 2.7%. So even with better than expected inflation data, the odds are still heavily against a rate cut in January. Officials have also projected only one rate cut in all of 2026, totaling just 0.25%. But keep in mind, the current chair is expected to leave office in mid-2026, and a new chair is expected to be nominated soon. That new chair is expected to favor much lower interest rates. One potential candidate has suggested rates should be lowered by a full 1%, taking them from 3.75% down to 2.75%. However, that candidate is considered a long shot. Another leading candidate would likely push rates down even further. But there are concerns about experience, independence, and whether they could gain support from other policymakers. A third candidate has prior experience, but has been largely inactive for many years. What's clear is that whoever becomes the next chair will likely push interest rates lower than current leadership wants, and in my opinion, that will make the inflation situation worse. So prepare for that heading into 2026. I'll conclude with this. The CPI report says inflation is at 2.7%, but many people don't believe that reflects reality. When the money supply is growing around 6%, it's hard to believe inflation is truly that low. It's my belief that inflation inflation is understated to reduce the cost of living adjustments, especially for the roughly 70 million Americans who rely on them. Imagine how expensive it would be for the government to give 6%, 8%, or 10% increases every year. Instead, by reporting inflation at 2.7%, only a 2.7% adjustment is required. Many people question that, and I understand why. Let me know what you think about this situation. Please subscribe for more clear explanations like this. Thank you for the support, and have a great day.